Hello and welcome to,
Hey, we like your pod.
and we're going to tell you why. Hi, it's Dawn here, and I'm joined by my trusted partner, both of us sleep deprived,
We're gonna do our best to get through this.
officially off season, so bear with us. So hey, Matty, Pickett, my trusted partner,
Yeah.
how was your week?
We just both hinted at the fact that we're both kind of like dealing with a little
Mhm.
sleep and kind of battling stuff. So that aside, there's kind of the collective like downer in Cincinnati of post Super Bowl with the, with the Bengals coming so close to getting a Super Bowl win. It would have been their first Super Bowl win like ever, which would have been pretty cool. But it was a lot of fun to watch it. It was, I mean, just the fact that the Bengals were in it was so much fun. And to be in Cincinnati at that time with the excitement, with the fireworks happening during the game, so I
Fun.
was listening really, really close. I was watching the game, at my stepdad, or not stepdad, would say father-in-law's house, right? Those are things in English that I just have a hard time with. Stepdad versus father-in-law. Pronouns, I'm terrible with them. Anyhow, so I watched the game very close to Paul Brown Stadium, which, for those who don't know, that's where the
So cool.
Bengals home stadium. And so, yeah, they were setting off fireworks every time the Bengals scored. It was really cool. So yeah, that was a huge bummer afterwards. Across the city. But that aside, I'm good. I'm good. How
I'm
about you,
glad.
Don?
Well, as far as that game, first of all, I was happy it wasn't anything like last year's game
Mm.
because that was like yawn fest. It was horrible. I don't know if anyone even remembers it. So, but it was a good game. I think a lot of us, our initial reactions were, okay, refs, what? Like, where, why now? Why now? And then
Why
our
stop scoring
little
the whistle at the end of the game when it really, really matters?
suspicions and all that. But and I think I posted this in all my wisdom because I know so much about football. Is look, the one thing I have learned this year, the biggest lesson about football is really you have to be ahead a couple of scores,
Mm-hmm.
plays, because the NFL is so tight, and that's the whole point of keeping things even.
Mm-hmm.
We may think, it may seem like there's just this huge divide between whatever the Buccaneers or the Chiefs and the Packers, and let's say the Houston Texans or
The Jets are.
yeah, you even forget their names because it's like I'm so sorry, no disrespect, but that's the thing. But really, any given Sunday, right? But there's only a couple and maybe four at the most plays that can differentiate a
Yeah.
win from a loss all year long. And there's only 17 games and then the Super Bowl. So, after I got settled down, I was like, okay, I don't want to blame the refs for this, although there was an argument to be made, but for sure, I know. There's always going to be that element, but I
Mm-hmm.
guess that, how do I say this? I guess the teams know that. And so knowing that, they can't put themselves in that position. They have
Sure.
to be that. Yeah. Not that that's right. I'm not advocating. I know everyone's going to come after me for that one, but I'm not advocating that. I like to try. I mean, I tend to take a 30,000 viewpoint of pretty much everything in
Mm-hmm.
life, because once you get down in the details and you get passionate as a fan, you can become very tunnel
Mm-hmm.
visioned.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's a Packer fan or a Bengals fan. And for me, I mean, I love an underdog any day of the week.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like the Bengals were the underdog. I was so rooting for the Bengals, but I was also rooting for the Rams, I mean, but I did feel bad. I did feel badly. And I thought it was funny when I asked you, how are the kids enjoying the fireworks? And you're like, oh, they're not watching the game. They're like in another room. What were they doing? They were playing some kid game.
They were watching like a Pixar movie in the other room.
Pixar movie, which is probably what I would have been doing at that time. So, but Well, I do want to say, Matty, that I really did enjoy listening as a listener to last week's podcast because I couldn't make it. I've had some health issues, still kind of getting through those, but I'm vertical today at least
Yay.
and not spinning. So here I am, whether you like it or not. But it was so neat to listen to you and Katie. I wasn't doing it on purpose. I just was listening like I was listening to someone else's podcast. And I was like, hey, this is a kind of a good podcast. I like it.
I'm
I
glad you
mean,
liked it. No, Katie was
I know you
fantastic.
did great. I
Yeah.
was so, and when I bailed out on you at the last minute, because I was really trying to make it, and I was just not. It's like, no. I was thinking you were just going to pop on and do your superlatives. And then all of a sudden you had this guest and she's talking about all the things that matter so much to me. And I was like, I want to be on there right now with you guys. So Katie, please come back so that all three of us can talk about like true crime for one thing. And some of the other issues that are so important to my heart that you raised. So thank you for doing that. And I hope everyone loved that episode last week, but cool. That was fun. So I've had a good week as a listener.
Nice.
Yeah. So Matty, I'm calling this episode off season. What am I calling it?
And they're
off season? Off what? And they're off. Off what? So Matty, what are we off of this week? Or what are we on to this week? Any superlatives for us?
That was an awesome transition. So my superlatives for this week. Right. So the first one is going to be just straight up best Super Bowl summary. With all the different podcasts that I listen to, that we both listen to, everyone is breaking down the Super Bowl after the game was over. Everyone had like thoughts and takes and contributions and whatever else. And like honestly, after about like the 50th one I listened to, I'm like, I'm so fatigued with this. This is just okay. We've broken it down. But amidst all of that, good and bad takes, interesting, uninteresting episodes, the best one of all of them, it's no surprise, it was Andy Herman's Pack-A-Day that came out on Monday, episode 1299. And what I liked about it is that when I listened to it, I was still very much stuck in the like Bengals fan perspective from having watched with Bengals fans from living in Cincinnati of like the Bengals should have won, the refs screwed us, right? And Andy like acknowledged like that there was controversy around that, and also controversy around the T. Higgins touchdown, the beginning of the second half with the the face mask, whatever you want to call it. But the point, he made a lot of good points, but the thing that really I think brought it home was that in the end, the team that like played a better game did win, because really the Rams defense was so strong throughout the game, and especially in the second half, that like they're the team that played better. They are, he talked through like the stats of the what the Bengals did on their last like all their drives in the second half, and I was like seeing it from that perspective, kind of that. Well, you're just saying like a 30,000 foot point of view, taking that like zooming out view of the game's progression in the second half was like, oh yeah, like things did not go very well for the Bengals in the second half after they got the T. Higgins touchdown, and in the end, it was the Rams defense that really won, and they kind of deserved it because of that.
And that's so true. And any given NFL game, even between what we think are the top teams in the bottom tier, whether it's whatever you think your bottom tier is, I don't want to insult anyone, but let's say for example, the Texans against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Okay, let's keep ourselves completely out of this. Really, 2 to 4 plays makes all the difference between a win and a loss all year long. And that's the one thing I've definitely learned. But you just made me think of something, Matt. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So why do you think because I do the same thing, listen like to how many different takes there might be? We're trying to reason, like we're trying to find something that we missed. I do think that when a game ends in that abrupt way, with the call of a ref, when it's taken out of the players and the coach's hands like that, it really does leave something wanting, to answer, and we want to make sense out of things. So that's interesting because I found myself doing the same thing. And I'm like, why am I listening to this over and over again? I mean, everyone has a little bit of a different something
Yeah.
that they can add in. But it's interesting you went through that too.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
it's just part of like processing the event. You know,
Right.
what did I just see? You know, I can't
Mhm.
take in all the information about everything, and that's why like you listen to people's different points of views because they're catching like, you know, through their own lens. And so by
Yeah.
comparing these lenses and like trying to get a more complete picture of the thing, it helps me to process it. And so that is part of why I love podcasts for like kind of
Yeah.
the afterwards, and then the going
Right.
into it, you know, like, especially into a Packers game. There's a lot of anxiety I might feel about like, you know, how's this game going to go? Like, what are our chances? Like, are we going to win? And so listening to people who are way smarter at me than analysis talking about things and kind of like giving ideas and, well, and, you know, takes about this kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
helps me to process that kind of anxiety and maybe even might say fear to a degree. So
Good
I think for
point.
me, a lot of it, a lot of what makes me such a voracious, you know, content consumer is just like I want to use that to help me process and to consider and, you know, grow in my intelligence as a fan.
I That's great. I was thinking about that too, and haven't thought about it in that angle, but yeah, it is part of the whole processing, making sense of it all, like
Mm-hmm.
just making sense of it
Making
all.
sense
Maybe
of
that
it.
should have been the name of our podcast this week. Trust me, if you're coming here to make sense of it all, you're in the wrong place. Okay. Now, maybe you're in the right place. Maybe you're in just the right place. It just kind of depends on who you are. Well, that's cool. Yeah, it's like I didn't get tired of listening to what happened, the what happened in the
Mm-hmm.
takes
Yeah.
and the this and that. And but I do think in most cases, like with Andy, of course we both respect him immensely,
Mm-hmm.
that once you sleep on things a little bit too, then you make your podcast. Like, because I know once, like as soon as the game happened, I was like, those refs,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's the
But
most
I
reaction coming into
knew,
it. Yeah.
and there's value to that, and that's some of the stuff we're going to talk about this off season. Quite honestly, I want to talk about the way the NFL is structured from top down, right? Including the refs and the how they're paid and why they're paid that way and why aren't they full-time positions and what the hell's going on with the turf and yeah, all of those things. So yeah, I like that answer and I appreciate that answer because I found myself seeking out, or well, of course we're getting fed those suggestions. Maybe you ought to listen to this because you're interested in that
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. So yeah, I consumed an awful lot this week too, and I finally feel like I'm somewhat at peace. Having said that, no matter what, there's always going to be the money element, and it's only going to
Always.
grow.
Always.
That's all I'm going to say.
Always have to consider that.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
So
the second one. All
yeah.
right. Well, speaking of making sense of it all, right? My
Yeah.
second one I want to talk about is the most interesting series. It's actually from the last 2 weeks. So Paul Brettel, brilliant, you know, football
What?
mind, content creation machine, good take
Oh,
master. Paul Brettel has been doing a series called Green Bay Packers: Cut 'em or Keep 'em and Prediction. So he's
oh.
been going through many of the players, you know, who may or may not be back with the Packers next year, whether they're free agents or maybe like just needed cap casualties or whatever.
Mhm.
And each article was like one player talking about like why to keep them, why not to, like what's the argument for them, and then also like what Paul's prediction was. And like Paul's also like a master tea leaf reader. He's had amazing, you know, like prognostications on things in the past. So just get his perspective on, you know, the sort of like fine grained details, like player by player, has been outstanding. The one that we'll have the link to in the show notes, he has sorry, that one has links within his article to the previous ones he had written, so it's easy to kind of get to all of them through the one that we'll link in the show notes.
Cool.
So that's been really really interesting. And should I get to my third one then?
I No, well, just you said Paul Bretto. I didn't know that was going to be one of your superlatives because we were talking before the show. I just popped that name out because he's such, like you say, a machine and so good. And probably not a day, or at least definitely not a week goes by where I'm not consuming at least all of his podcasts, but some of his other material too. And making sense of it is important because and I love that you mentioned that you can get like sublinks in there, because if we put a link in the show notes, that will lead you to other links. And that's actually why we're here, is to kind of, for what it's worth, our takes is like, this is really good to listen to, and this is why, or this is good to read, and this is why. And because we've kind of, both of us listen to and read and consume an awful lot, even when we're under the weather, of content, NFL and others. So I did not, because of my health, consume quite as much this week, but I never miss Paul. Never. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
All
what's
right.
your third?
My third one is most fascinating argument. So I cannot recommend this one highly enough. This really kind of like blew my mind. So Ryan Schlip, who we've mentioned a lot lately, actually, he's been up in our mentions quite a bit. Ryan did an episode of his Pecking Up podcast. This one came out, I want to say, on Monday or Tuesday. Shoot, maybe I don't know. It's Monday or Tuesday, whatever.
Right.
Link in the show notes, right?
Right.
And the title is almost clickbaity. It's could the Packers find their own Matt Stafford in 2022?
Oh,
you
yeah.
see that, like, whoa,
Yeah.
What are you talking about? We got Aaron Rodgers or whatever. Like, what are you talking about? Because obviously the Matt Stafford situation is like, there's a team that has almost everything it needs. Bring in a player who's going to be a good quarterback, not an amazing quarterback, but a good quarterback, good enough to get them, over the hump. In a lot of ways, the Packers are kind of that team, and that we have a lot of pieces in place. Obviously, we have Aaron Rodgers, but the argument that he gets into, kind of how he forms it, as usual, is masterful. But like, the crux of it is that a player, the salary that they're paid should be commensurate with the difference they make. So like, is it worth paying somebody the $50 million to be the quarterback when somebody who's like $25 million is going to be good enough to get it done within the system, and given the other parts there and the coaches and stuff like that? Like, do we need to have a $50 million quarterback to do what we need to do? Would like a $25 million quarterback be good enough? He mentioned a couple of potential like quarterbacks who could be that person. He mentioned Matt Ryan and Baker Mayfield, both as potential ones. In the end, I don't think he believes that we should do that. I don't think he thinks we should move on from Aaron Rodgers, for a lot of good reasons. But just the way how he constructed the argument and went through it, it really kind of made me like see some things differently, and kind of like, I feel like it like turned my brain inside out listening to it, like the best possible way. So it's just one of those episodes of a thing that you could listen to at any point in the off season, or during the season. It's just kind of like this interesting thought experiment and talking.
Right. Provocative.
That was a really good one.
Yeah, I like that. I saw it, and I saw that people were just based on the headline kind of freaking out. But I mean, I don't know if I should say this out loud, but I've had that own little thought experience in my own mind. Like, okay, look, the 49ers came into Lambeau Field and beat the Packers with Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And he didn't mention that one as an option, probably for good reason, but yeah. It's, if you're not, just again, 30,000 foot view, if you're not willing to at least look at these things as an option, especially with our cap situation.
Yeah. Yes.
And you got to know, I mean, people being paid a lot of money must be doing this. We hope they're doing this objectively. Then what kind of a fan are you? Are you just like last week, I think, or it was the week before when I was on, are you just drinking the Kool-Aid? Because that's fine. Drink the Kool-Aid, just be hoorah, whatever your team is, and that's fine. There's no problem with that. But really, if you want to get behind the whole team and feel what they're feeling and going through it at a deeper level, you have to, I feel like you almost have to consider some of these alternative ideas. And the off-season, certainly the off-season brings up a lot of those potentialities, right? What if we did this? And it's like, players become numbers and spreadsheet figures and spreadsheet characters instead of actually humans. And
Absolutely.
yeah.
So Dawn, what do you have for your superlative?
Yeah, well, honestly, all I can say is I already miss Z. I mean, I haven't given up on the fact that he's coming back, but man,
No, I doubt it.
I want it. I know, but until it's over, it's not over. But yeah, there are certain ones that I'll miss more than others. That's for sure. I'm gonna ask everybody, but okay. So my superlatives, I think, are from 2 weeks ago. Okay, everyone, please bear with me because I'm kind of in another planet.
Yeah, the ones that we're looking at, right? Probably. So we both have a show doc we're looking at, listeners.
We're looking at a show doc.
The point that we're in, I think these ones from 2 weeks ago, but at the top of the document, you had ones from.
Oh, go back to the top. Go back to the top. He's saying go back to the top. He's helping me because you guys, I've been not feeling well.
We are struggling together here.
I was looking at it, I'm like, that's not what I was gonna say. Okay. Okay. All right, so superlatives. Longest overdue. Brian Flores suing the NFL and how it honestly sheds light on some other shady backdoor dealings in the NFL. Did I talk about that already?
That's from the.
That's from 2 weeks ago.
That's from 2 weeks ago. Yeah, no, the okay. Document.
Where did I go? Okay, so I was in the right place. Okay, let me go back. Go back. I was like, I think I did this before, but I'm so sick that I could actually be dreaming this whole thing with my fever. A fever dream podcast. Okay. So Matt and I both need sleep. Okay, I'm back. Okay, I know where.
That was the funniest thing, right?
My first one is the funniest non-NFL, right? A lot of people don't know a lot of things about Matt and I, and one of my main claims to fame is my interest in art and my career in art and design. Funniest off season, having nothing to do with football and everything to do with my lifelong passion, art. And I have to click on it to remember what it was, but I know I briefly looked at it with Matt earlier and it was freaking funny. And so no matter if you like art or not, the show links will have the link. Basically, $1 million painting is ruined after a bored security guard draws eyes on faceless figures. I'm sorry, I got through it. I did it without laughing. Wait till you see it. Wait, you got to see it. You got to click on the link and you got to see what he did with the faceless figures. Okay, that's it. That's all I'm going to say. It's a little teaser there. This is what we're gonna do that with our superlatives from now. We're just gonna give little teasers so that you go look for yourself. And the thing is, when you are clicking on our superlatives, we want to hear your reaction. We want to know if it's as funny to you as it was to us, or if we're on the right track. We like to know what you like to hear about. So that was just awesome. Of course, it was his first day on the job. He was fired. And guess where this happened? In Russia. He's probably dead. Okay. He's probably in prison. One thing about Russia for sure is they do take their culture and their art quite seriously, as they should. My second superlative, Kringle. Finally, something worth fighting about.
Finally.
Screw the NFL, screw football. Let's have a Kringle Bowl. Kringle Bowl is on. Okay, so someone needs to prove to me that Lane Bakery is all that.
So what's the context for this, Dawn?
Well, you tell me. Sure, I don't remember.
So AJ Dillon had his bracket of Wisconsin foods, and spoiler, the winner was cheese curds, and I think that was a really good, strong.
They squeak. I can't stand cheese curds. Ooh.
And so within there was Kringle, which for those who don't know is a Danish pastry.
Danish from Denmark. Danish from Denmark.
And it's sort of like a ring-shaped pastry. There's filling in it. There's often like frosting on top. It's amazing. And Racine, Wisconsin, which of course is the proud home of Dawn, is
and a lot of Danish people.
Yeah, there's a lot of Danish people there. So it's well known for its Kringles because a couple companies like ship them widely. I mean, I can like go pick up one of the, was it B&O, B&H, H&O, B&O, what's the company?
Well, Lori, my sister, loves O and H,
O and H, right?
but
So
I'm a layman's girl. I'm a layman's
because I
girl.
can get like
Okay.
an O and H one at like Trader Joe's, like kind of
I
anywhere.
think that's layman's.
Oh, is it? It's one of them, and
Maybe. I don't know.
I have heard that like the local bakeries in Racine are better than like the ones that are shipped broadly, which I can
Probably.
totally get that.
Yeah. They probably get frozen or something.
So I haven't had those like specialty small bakery local ones, so I'm sure they're great. But for me, having grown up just outside of Madison, Wisconsin,
Mhm.
the Kringle that I know and love is from Lane's Bakery. So anybody in Madison who is listening, if you didn't know, Lane's has an amazing Kringle. Oh my God, it's tasty. My
It,
mom used to always buy like a cherry cheese one. Actually, she still does a cherry cheese one and like a I don't know, it's like pecan or something one.
mm-hmm.
And having it there on Christmas morning because it's kind of a Christmassy kind of thing. Um, at least it is for me. Is it
In your
actually?
family. Yeah. Yeah. It's a year-round thing for me.
I need to make it a year-round thing for me. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so we just got into a little bit on Twitter this week on that. That's right.
We got into it. And Kringle, the difference really, in terms of how honestly, and I just had this conversation with my girlfriend. It's like if you're used to your grandmother making something a certain way, you're going to say that's the best way. That doesn't
Yeah.
taste it. But the difference is how they handle the dough. The dough is kind of phyllo-ish dough. But what a lot of people don't know is if you haven't been to Bohemia, where it's actually originates like the whole, and of course Denmark, there are savory Kringles.
Mm.
Like you have them for lunch. It's much bigger than the O-shaped thing. They're not always O-shaped. They're not always a circle either. So there's a whole lot. We need to do a Kringle podcast. We do. We just need to do a podcast
Hey,
about
you like
Kringle.
your Kringle?
How do you like your Kringle? We need to do a podcast about pizza too, because I think one of the best pizzas, well, and I don't just think it, like the New York Times thought so, excuse me. One of the pizzas from an Italian family is made in Racine as well. It's very special, and it's the Wells Brother pizzas. But I digress. Pizza Kringle, thank God I'm not back there anymore, because I actually eat salads now. Okay. So that was my second one, I think.
What's your third one, Don?
Oh, I'm like off season, what off season, right? Because I don't think it really is. There is an off season anymore. So salary cap is the thing that we're interested in right now, right? And I found a really cool article a couple weeks ago. I found more since then, but from Fansided, Dairyland Express, your guide to 2022 Green Bay Packers salary cap situation. I have learned so much math in the last couple of weeks. But so if you are interested in like why teams, especially the Packers or whatever your team, whoever your team is, it applies. It's saying you just have to plug it in. It's like plug into the spreadsheet. It's a whole another level of fandom, right, Maddie?
Mm-hmm.
And it comes up pretty quickly because we're going to have the combine, and then we're going to have the draft, and we're actually going to have a special guest who knows a heck of a lot and who's working really hard right as we speak on his material for this. So if you've never done a mock draft before, if you're feeling like you need a little dose of football in the middle of spring because August is so far away, and it's really not, but let's just say we think that way, you're going to want to stay tuned, because Matt and I did a mock draft together last year. That's how we kind of became friends, and it's just great fun. And you don't really have to be good at math, right? Do you have to be good at math? No, because somebody else is doing that for you. There are people who are doing that for you. But so my first article, my first superlative is where is your money? Follow the money, your guide to 2022 Green Bay Packers salary cap situation. And it, just like Matt's mentioned, it will have all kinds of subcategories where you can just like go down the yellow brick road as much as you want. But again, stay tuned here, because we're going to be covering that as well, along with all kinds of other loosely related football material. Everything comes back to football, even art, even true crime, and current events and everything else. So we're going to have a fun off season, I think, even though we're sleep deprived. What do you think, Matty?
I can't wait to hear this episode. We're gonna sound so ridiculous. I'm calling it now. Yeah. Do you have any other superlatives on? Was that it? Those were
I
great.
have so many other ones, but I'm going to stop right now because I need sleep, obviously. No, curious. I just want to say thanks to all of you for all of the great little notes and positive feedback that we've been getting privately. It's just super nice to know that that there's a place for us in the world of podcasting and YouTubing, because we're kind of like everywhere. But it's kind of cool to know that Matt and I had a little rare pre-podcast production meeting, kind of, because you guys don't know this, but basically we just say, hi guys, what's going on, hey, let's start, and then we start recording. That's our podcast. We don't put a lot into this though, but I thought, we've been halfway through the year, so we've had a half of our over 25 podcasts now, and so that's half a year. And I guess, again, I'm just going to say it again. I listened last week because we had somebody guest host for me, and I got to hear the podcast like as an outsider, and I just had really fun with it. And so I guess I just want to know if there's anything you all want to hear from us, any ideas you have, any questions, any guests, if you'd like to be a guest on our podcast, or any guests that you'd like to nominate. Bring it on, because we have some great ideas coming your way, but we want to hear from you. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, totally agree. We want to hear some feedback from you. Absolutely. And that will help us to continue to, make the show, continue spreading the love.
Yeah, we appreciate you all joining us here, and we want to be here to spread the love. We're both so glad to know you, to be fans of you, and to have the luxury of being fans of the most storied team in the NFL. We appreciate your support, your subscriptions, and sharing our pod, and we look forward to seeing you next week on
Hey, we like your pod.